Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. So before we talk about the bills that we're going to be taking up on the floor today, I'm just going to make a statement about discussions with the governor, since a lot of people have been asking my office and sending media requests. So the governor and his staff have had our plan that we worked out with the Assembly to provide meaningful tax relief to hardworking families since March. In response, we've asked for specific items he would need to see in his budget to agree to cutting taxes. His staff has not been able to provide any of those details over the last 6 or 7 weeks. Speaker Voss and I provided the governor with a series of times into next week as a last-ditch effort to preserve these good faith negotiations. I hope sincerely that he accepts those dates, one of those dates next week. It's imperative that we meet by the end of next week at the latest to stay on schedule to pass a budget by the end of the fiscal year. It's as simple as that. Time's ticking, end of the fiscal year's coming, and if we're going to work through finance and get a budget passed, we need to meet with the governor next week. So with that, we're going to talk about the floor session, and I am going to turn it over to Rob Hutton.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you all for being here. With Memorial Day just around the corner, we thought it was very fitting to introduce a bipartisan bill on the floor today, SB 38, which is a bill that recognizes those families in Wisconsin that have sacrificed ultimately on behalf of our nation. Many of those families have willingly loaned their sons and daughters to our nation to defend our freedom that we all benefit from today. This is a simple bill that in Wisconsin there is a license plate that those families can purchase for them to honor their fallen loved one. And we have roughly 460 to 470 of those license plates circulated throughout the state of Wisconsin so far today. That license plate, thankfully, is free to those families of those fallen loved ones. What this bill does is also allows those license plates to be personalized with the namesake of their fallen loved one, which today they are required to pay $15 to have that personalization done. We think on behalf of the state of Wisconsin, on behalf of the sacrifice those families have made, those personalized plates ought to be free from purchase all the way through to personalization to allow those families to properly honor the loved one that they've lost, and for the state of Wisconsin to properly honor those families who have willingly given the ultimate sacrifice in the passing of one of their loved ones on behalf of this great nation. And so this bill will be a great bipartisan bill that we will pass today in honor of those families and in remembrance of Memorial Day coming up. With that, I will pass it off to Senator Quinn.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. Exciting day. 2 important bills I just want to highlight briefly. So imagine, if you will, someone approaches a homeowner, maybe you, and they know times are tough, and they offer you cash to sign a contract that says, if you choose to sell your home 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'll give you a couple thousand up front, but you have to use me as a realtor down the road when you sign this today. And you say, sure, I might not be interested in selling my home for some time. Why not? And little do you know, that person then takes that contract and goes to the county courthouse and puts a lien on your property without you knowing and without your permission. And so we have found this is happening across Wisconsin. It's happening across the country. We know of at least 400 instances of this. And when you try to get that lien removed, you have to buy it out. And sometimes it's a percentage of the value of your entire home. So this deceptive practice needs to end. And Wisconsin, after today, after the Senate's action, will take another step further in joining other states to ban this deceptive practice and protect homeowners here in Wisconsin. The second bill I want to highlight is really important for my district. So Superior is home to the last private utility in the state. And state law, not federal law, state law prohibits Superior from accessing the same federal capitalization grants for lead line removals as anyone else in the state. And so to protect the ratepayers in Superior, they're also state taxpayers, they're also federal taxpayers, and none of them today were alive when the decision was made to have a private utility, but they should be treated the same as anyone else in this state who receives help for removing lead laterals here in Wisconsin. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the Majority Leader.
All right, questions?
Assembly Republicans are talking about bringing back the Monday processing bill in the coming weeks. Do you have the votes to get it through the Senate this time around?
There's not even a bill out there this session. Next question.
Senator Lemon, you brought up the tax discussions. Can you give us some details of what Republicans are seeking in that tax package? Is it retirement income cuts?
Yeah, it's a combination of two things. As if I'm sure you've heard the speaker talk about exempting some of retiree income to keep retirees in Wisconsin for more than 6 months. So it's partly that, and partly increasing the second from the bottom tax bracket, the eligibility up to a certain level, similar to a bill that the governor vetoed last session. Won't be as high we won't move it as high as last session. It's important to know that we're going to get new revenue numbers at some point today from the Fiscal Bureau. That will sort of shape what kind of tax cut we can afford and what kind of other investments we can afford. So that's why it's so pivotal that within the next week that we meet with the governor to make sure that all the important functions of state can continue on after June 30th.
Do you have a rough idea what that number's gonna look like?
I tried to get it out of Bob Lang yesterday, and he's a steel trap. So no. Right, seeing no further questions, thank you.